Hey everyone, welcome back. Glad to have you here. Today, I've got another eye-opening story to share, so let's jump right in. I got this text out of the blue saying my wife, Sophia, had booked us a spot at a restaurant for Valentine's Day. Now, that threw me for a loop since I'm usually the one handling those plans every year without fail. But come evening, all I got was another message from her saying she was stuck at work pulling overtime. Not long after that, I stumbled across a post from her coworker, Lucas, that said, "Only a sweet sister knows how to pamper a guy right." He went on, "Fancy spot, lovely lady. The cake tonight was tasty, but it's got nothing on the sweetness of your lips." The photo attached? It's him and Sophia, cozy as can be, her sporting the necklace I'd handed her that very morning. Right there on the table was the bottle of wine I'd given her as a gift. I knew that restaurant in the picture instantly. It's the same place Sophia and I built so many memories, like the night I got down on one knee and proposed. Back in the day, I'd have stormed over to her about this, but this time? Man, I was just wiped out. When Sophia rolled in later, I was munching on a mango, something she's allergic to, so we've kept it out of the house forever. She looked shocked to see me still up, then casually slid a gift my way like it was no big deal. It was a Hublot watch, and she hit me with, "Happy Valentine's Day, honey." Yes, she's still a decent wife, huh? Not just taking, but giving too. But this year, the restaurant owner, old college pal of ours, threw me a curveball with a message. He's still flying solo, and while congratulating us, he tossed in a joke about it, then mentioned some new cake he'd whipped up, asking if I wanted to taste. I shot back, "Does it have mango in it?" He said nope, so I told him to go for it. Right after that, Sophia called me up, saying she was stuck at work late again and couldn't hang out for the night. Couldn't sleep after that, so I was messing around on my phone when Lucas's post popped up again. There they were, him and Sophia at that restaurant, my wine and necklace in the shot, clear as day. The cake? Layered with mango puree, something she'd never touch with that allergy. I was too beat to even call her out on it. I didn't have the energy to fight anymore. Didn't even mention Lucas's post, just got this sudden urge for mango instead. Ordered some delivery and dug in. First time in years since we'd banned it for her sake. After I polished off that mango, I looked at her and said, "I'm hitting the sack now unless there's something else." Sophia, caught off guard, grabbed my arm and went, "Noah, it's Valentine's Day." I stared at her, puzzled, and mumbled, "Yeah, and?" Her frown deepened as she slid closer, her voice turning playful as she whispered in my ear, "You really gonna crash this early on a night like this?" Sophia's always had this cool, standoffish vibe. Those glasses she started wearing after college just amped up her smart, untouchable charm. But tonight, I caught a whiff of smoke on her. I pulled back before her lips could land and said, "Hold up, I just ate mango, you'll swell up like a balloon." Then I shuffled into the bedroom, locked the door behind me, and flopped onto the bed. My phone started buzzing. It was my boss, asking if I was serious about taking that new gig. She laughed and said, "If you bail on me again over Sophia, I'll lose it. I swear I'll strangle you." I chuckled back, "Nah, I'm in this time, no flaking. Worst case, I'll show up at your door with my head on a platter," I added. The advertising job pays better, but it's all travel, all the time, something I passed on 3 years back because Sophia wasn't big on me being gone so much. She's old school like that, and I figured she'd hate us barely crossing paths most of the year. Took me over 8 months just to hold her hand the first time, if you can believe it. Back in middle and high school, my buddies always thought Sophia was a snooze. They couldn't figure out what I saw in her. I just grin and say, "Simple, she saved my dang life, for real." It goes back to middle school when an earthquake hit. The whole place shook, everyone bolted outside in a panic, and I was leading the pack. So there I was, sprawled on the floor after tripping over a desk leg and all that chaos. But Sophia? She shoved her way through the crowd, going against the tide just to track me down. She stuck right in front of me, keeping me close as we bolted out of there together. Later, I couldn't help but ask her, "What was going through your head? If you'd gotten hurt, or worse, wouldn't all your big dreams and hard work have been for nothing?" She looked kind of thrown by that, but then she said, "Honestly, I wasn't overthinking it." In that split second, she went on, "I just figured if I wasn't gonna make it out, I'd rather go down with you." That's Sophia for ya, always putting other folks first, no hesitation. But now, I can't help wondering if she ever pictured a day where she'd ditch me for somebody else. I never questioned how real she was with me back then, but man, even the truest feelings can wear thin over time. My boss must have picked up on something funky in my voice when we talked. She hit me with, "Look, Noah, everybody screws up sometimes. It's a whole lot easier to point fingers at what's behind you than to patch things up." Then she added, "I hope you've got the guts to flip the script when it counts. And, you know, someone as flawless as me? I don't mess up, obviously, but you? You're human, so it's fine if you stumble." She smirked through that sarcasm, then got serious. "Whatever goes down, even if you lose her, don't blow this job. You're starting in 4 days, and we're shipping you off to Chile right out the gate. No half effort allowed." Next morning, I dragged myself out of bed early to head to the office and tie up some loose ends. Sophia was parked in the living room, her lips all puffy, probably from that mango allergy kicking in after Lucas laid one on her post-date. I breezed past her toward the door, but she snagged my wrist. Sounding a little on edge, she asked, "What's eating you? Is this about me not being around yesterday? I told you. Work kept me late." She kept going. "The company's going public. Noah, do you have any idea how tough it's been for me, a woman, clawing my way up to management? All those eyes waiting for me to slip up? I've got to set the standard. You always said you backed my career, so why are you acting all cold now?" I've put up with her icy, arm's-length attitude for years. Times when she was too swamped to even know I was laid up in the hospital, or when I couldn't get a hold of her. I just swallowed it and kept quiet. Then one day, I swung by her office to pick her up, and while she was fixing her makeup, her phone lit up. She grabbed it fast, all sugar in her voice, talking to whoever was on the line, and that's when I first heard her say, "Lucas." Hit me like a ton of bricks. She wasn't too busy for calls. She just didn't think I deserved that piece of her. I yanked my arm free and said, "That's it, Sophia, we're through." Before I could get the rest out, her phone buzzed again. She peeked at the screen, shot me this sorry not sorry look, and picked up. It was Lucas. "Sis, come scoop me up," he whined. "It's freezing out here, and I'm not rolling out of bed. If you don't, I'll be late and miss my paycheck." Sophia's whole face softened like clockwork as she teased. "What? You're scared of a little chill? The same guy who scales snowy peaks at night? Fine, Lucas, get moving. You're buying me breakfast today, right?" I let out this hollow chuckle at how ridiculous it sounded. Lucas must have caught a vibe, 'cause he tacked on, "Oh, and tell Noah I said thanks. I didn't just eat at his spot yesterday. I borrowed one of his crew, too. I'll hook him up with something nice down the road." Sophia's eyes flicked to me, guilt written all over her face, but she turned away quick and dialed down her phone's volume like it'd hide the sting. I couldn't hold back a laugh at how insane this all was. Shook my head and started for the door, but Sophia cut off Lucas's call and hustled after me. "Lucas had this client dinner," she blurted, "but he forgot to book a place, so I handed over our reservation. It's just business, you get that, right?" She didn't even clock how nuts that excuse sounded. But she wasn't done yet. Later, when I was feeling rough and asked her to whip me up some porridge, she grabbed her coat and said, "Lucas has got nothing to eat at his place. I'm heading over to cook for him." I just froze, didn't know whether to grill her about what's up with Lucas or why she's playing chef for another dude. She didn't stick around for me to figure it out, bolted out the door so fast she didn't even notice me hunched over on the couch, sick as a dog. Man, it's a far cry from how she was in high school. Back then, if I even hinted at being stressed or missed a bite to eat, she'd give me that frosty scolding of hers. But during some random emergency break, she'd pull out a hot bowl of rice cakes like it was nothing and say, "Chow down, Noah, you'll just get sicker if I don't look after you." Anyway, I got to the office, and my supervisor slapped a mountain of paperwork on my desk, growling, "Get this done in 4 days, or you're showing up with your head on a platter." I burned the midnight oil at the office, grinding through that paperwork, and when I finally checked my phone, there it was, a draft of the divorce papers from my lawyer, staring back at me. Outside, a snowstorm was raging, but I didn't care. I hopped in a cab and headed straight for Sophia's office building. Got to her floor just as the power crapped out, plunging everything into darkness. I grumbled under my breath and flicked on my phone's flashlight to see where I was going. Right then, a text popped up from a coworker with a link attached and a vibe like he wasn't sure he should have sent it. "Ain't this that heavy metal show you've been dying to catch?" he wrote. Puzzled, I tapped the link, and it took me to a poster on Lucas's account, a guy who'd been glued to Sophia since high school, trailed her to college, and now clocked in at her company. His bio hit me like a slap, falling hard for her ain't your VIP pass, pal. I clicked the video, and bam, I got why my buddy hesitated. Under those flashing concert lights, there they were, Lucas and Sophia, hands locked, lips smashed together like the world didn't exist. My phone slipped right out of my grip, smashing onto the floor as this hot, ugly anger boiled up in my chest. Sophia and me? We'd been side by side practically our whole dang lives. But standing there, I realized I didn't even know who she was anymore. Then, from her office, I caught these quiet little sobs. Sophia's voice broke as she stammered, "I'm sorry, but we just can't keep this up." A guy, Lucas, came back with, "I don't get it. I'm crazy about you. What did I do wrong?" I peeked in and saw him wrap his arms around her waist, brushing his fingers over her tear-smeared cheeks like some lovesick puppy. He planted a soft kiss on her face, his eyes all droopy and sad, then slid his hand up to cradle the back of her head. In that pitch-black room, they locked lips, long and slow, like some movie scene. Then, bam, the power kicked back on, and the lights blazed to life. Whoops. They finally clocked me standing in the doorway. Lucas jumped in quick. "Noah, hold up. This ain't what it seems. I'm just head over heels for her, man. It's not on Sophia." She looked at me like she'd seen a ghost, lips still shiny and parted, totally thrown off. "Noah, what are you doing here?" she mumbled. I gave her a steady look, then strolled over to Lucas with a grin, before smashing my fist square into his smug face. He didn't even hit the ground before I yanked him up by the collar, staring him down like I could burn holes through him. That one's for your sorry mug, I growled. I've run into plenty of fake chicks, but a guy pulling this crap? First time for everything. Makes me want to puke. He tried to sputter something back, but I shut him up fast with a right hook to the gut, dropping him like a sack of potatoes as he crumpled in pain. Sophia snapped out of her haze, mouth opening to say something, but I swung around and backhanded her across the cheek. She grabbed her face, eyes welling up, looking all wounded. I didn't flinch, just peeled off my wedding ring and chucked it at her like it was junk. When it smacked into her, she broke down, tears spilling over her swollen face as she choked out, "Noah, don't do this, please, just hear me out." I shut her down cold, shoving the printed divorce papers into her hands. "Sophia, we're done. Divorce is happening." She threw all pride out the window, chasing me down the stairs from her office, yelling, "Noah, wait, listen to me. It's not what you're thinking." Half the building was gawking, probably cringing at the scene. I waved down a cab, ready to bounce. Snow was coming down hard, and Sophia plastered herself against the car door, blocking me from shutting it, her face begging as she said, "There's nothing real between us, I swear. He's just a kid clueless, that's all." I was only. I cut her off with a sneer. "Oh, he's not grown up yet, huh? So you're just giving him a head start on kissing lessons?" My voice stayed flat, no heat, just done. She stared back, eyes red and puffy, like she was watching something drift away for good. She stammered through her tears, "Don't look at me like that. Noah, please, don't do it. We've been together for over a decade. I can't picture my life without you. Lucas? He was just a fluke, I swear." Her voice got softer, fading out like she was losing steam. Then somebody yelled from behind her, "Sophia. Lucas is up on the rooftop, hurry." She let go of the car door without even thinking and spun around. I let out a sharp, bitter laugh and slammed the door shut, no second thoughts. In the rearview mirror, I caught her taking a couple steps after me, but then she froze and hightailed it back into the building. I squeezed my eyes shut. The anger was fading, and in its place, this jagged ache started clawing at my chest. The cabbie peeked at me through the mirror, his voice all worried. "Hey, buddy, you holding up okay?" I swiped at my face, turned away, and didn't say a word. Got home and started tossing my stuff into bags, just needing to move. Pretty soon, my phone lit up, Sophia's folks and mine, both calling one after the other. I thought to myself, real sour-like, Sophia's got a full plate, huh? Talking Lucas off a ledge, and somehow she's still got time to rope both our parents into playing referee. We've been a team for over 12 years, me and her, our roots were all knotted up, tougher to untangle than most people's. In the end, my folks just said, "Son, all we care about is you choosing what keeps you happy." I finished packing, swung the door open, and there she was, Sophia, standing in the doorway, looking like her whole world had caved in. She was shaking like a kid who got busted, reaching for my hand with this desperate little quiver. "Noah, please don't go. Let me lay it all out for you." I just stared, not saying a thing, and she lost it, breaking down completely. "I'm begging you here. Hit me, yell at me, whatever you need, just don't give me that look," she pleaded. "Don't look at me like I'm already gone." She threw herself at my suitcase, pressing down on it like she could physically stop me from walking out. "Noah, we swore we'd grow old side by side. Our parents are waiting for us in Shanghai for Winterfest. You can't ditch me now, Mom and Dad miss you like crazy." I let out a long, tired sigh, locking eyes with her. "What do you even want, Sophia?" She nearly dropped to the floor, clutching my leg, her tears soaking through my jeans as she sobbed like a mess. "Please, just one more shot. I'll be better, I promise." I didn't answer right away. My eyes drifted to this old college graduation photo that had slipped out of my stuff while I was packing. I leaned in for a closer look, and that's when it hit me. It wasn't just me and Sophia in that shot. Lucas was there too, lurking in the background under a tree, staring her down. And Sophia? Her gaze wasn't on me, it was fixed on him. So that's how far back it went, huh? All those times I thought it was just us, our little moments, turns out there'd been a third wheel the whole dang time. Sophia was quivering, dodging my gaze like she was waiting for the hammer to drop. Then, out of nowhere, I softened my tone and said, "All right, how's that sound?" Her head snapped up, eyes sparkling with shock and a flicker of hope. "Wait, seriously, Noah? You'd give us a fresh start?" After a beat, I gave a slow nod and tossed in something unexpected. "Yeah, but there's one catch." I kept my voice even, no waver. "You remember that island trip we dreamed up back in high school? All these years, we never made it happen. I want us to take 6 days, just you and me, and finally go." She didn't hesitate, flung herself into my arms, mumbling, "That's it? That's all it takes." I nodded, but deep down, I had a hunch she'd never stick it out. Thinking it over, Sophia chasing after Lucas wasn't as wild as it first hit me. Her whole life's been mapped out, boxed in by her family's playbook. From growing up in Shanghai to moving to the big city, from school to tying the knot with me, her childhood sweetheart, everything's been a straight, steady line, all safe and cozy. But when things get too predictable for too long, you start itching for a jolt. And Lucas? He was that electric spark she couldn't resist. He's the wild card, reckless, full of fire. dragging her up snowy peaks in the dead of night, keeping her buzzing at concerts till dawn, kissing her as the sun peeked over the ocean. Even the most buttoned-up folks can't help but get swept off their feet by that kind of heat. Sophia swore that after this trip, she'd stick by me every single day, promising I'd never get bored of her. It was like she was terrified I'd back out. She jumped right into planning every little piece of our island getaway, acting all pumped to finally check it off our list. Meanwhile, I was half-heartedly scrolling through my phone, barely caring. Lucas, though? He was flooding social media, practically punishing himself with every post about how he felt for Sophia. I just watched, stone-faced. Today, he lost it and threw up something raw. She's in love with me, end of story. I snorted and fired back with my own post. Starting now, I'm heading to the tropics with my wife. The past? It's dust, blown away. Today's where we kick things off fresh. All I want is her hand in mine from here on out. Lucas couldn't sit still, shot me a message begging to meet up. We sat down at a cafe, and he gritted out, "After all that mess, you're still gonna let it slide? You're sticking with her?" I just grinned, keeping my mouth shut. He spat, "You're actually leaving? Moving to the tropics for real? Why hasn't she told me Jack about it?" Getting more ticked off by the second. I slid the visa my boss had rushed for me across the table, smirking a little. "Look, Sophia and I go back over a decade." She got down on her knees for another shot, and I told her if she'd drop everything and take off with me, I'd let it go. She said yes, naturally. My smile didn't reach my eyes, pure ice. Lucas blew up, snarling, "No way, that's bull. I've poured everything into her. She said she's in love with me." His voice was thick with rage, but I could hear it cracking under the hurt. I locked eyes with him, cold as steel. Lucas had swooped in on Valentine's Day, rubbed their fling in my face with those messages, and made sure I walked in on them locking lips, all to shove me out of the picture. What he didn't get was how deep my roots went in Sophia's world, deeper than he'd ever touch. His big scheme had crashed and burned. Next thing I know, Lucas is lunging at me, fury blazing. But what's a scrawny dude like Lucas gonna do against me? I swatted his swing away like it was nothing, dumped my coffee right over his head, and before he could blink, cracked him across the face so hard he hit the deck. I squatted down, grabbed a fistful of his hair, and yanked his head up to look me dead in the eye. Grinning, I laid into him. "Pretty sad, huh? You actually think Sophia's in love with you? Tough break. Man, you didn't really buy that she's all about you, did you?" His face twisted up with anger and hurt, and it almost made me gag. I leaned in one last time and said, "Here's the deal. If Sophia picks up and leaves with me, I'll let it all go, and we'll start over fresh. But if she bails, I'm done forgiving her, period." His expression shifted, he got it, loud and clear. At the airport, Sophia was fidgeting with her phone, all wound up. Her lips were mashed together tight. "Noah, this time's different. Lucas got into a car wreck. It's bad. Can we push the trip back?" I didn't say a word at first, just studied her face, letting my eyes roam over every line. Then I hit her with, "I figured out why you didn't show up to that concert with me." She went stiff, her mouth twitching like she wanted to fake a smile but couldn't pull it off. "That night was Lucas's birthday," she said. "He asked me to come. I couldn't say no." I let out a dry, hollow laugh. "Sophia, that was my favorite band. I've been yapping about them since I was a kid. On my birthday, you kept bugging me about my wish, and I told you I wanted cash to see them live. You got all huffy, asking why I didn't wish to bring you along." I stopped for a second, then kept going. "My big 19th birthday wish was to hit that concert with you. Don't you remember? But I ended up there solo. Had no clue my wife was in the crowd, locking lips with somebody else. Even texted her during the show to remind her to grab some food. Never got a peep back." She started freaking out, her voice climbing like she was scrambling for a defense. "There'll be other shows." I shut her down, calm but firm. "Nah, there won't. That was their last gig, done for good." I locked eyes with her and said it again, slow. "There won't be another one." We stood there, quiet for a beat, and then I just shrugged it off, giving her a little wave. "Go on then. He's banged up, and you're his boss. Looks shady if you don't show." "The tropics." I flashed a smile, catching her gaze, thinking back to that 18-year-old girl who'd sulked until I promised we'd go someday. "We'll hit him next time." Sophia looked like I just handed her a get-out-of-jail-free card. She bolted out of the airport, snow and rain whipping around her, racing off to Lucas. I ripped up my plane ticket, chucked the scraps in the trash, and printed a new one, headed for Chile. Next thing Sophia knew, she woke up wrapped in some guy's arms, his lips brushing her face all tender-like. Something felt off. Her eyes popped open wide. This wasn't me. Yesterday, she'd hauled it to the hospital, only to find out Lucas's car accident was a total sham. She'd been steamed at first, but then Lucas turned on the waterworks. "Sophia, I've been crazy about you for years. Just one more time, can't you stay with me this once?" A little voice in her head screamed, "Noah, get out of here." Man, Noah's gotta be fuming by now, Sophia thought. We'd known each other since we were kids, grew up side by side, and had 8 years of marriage under our belt. Everything looked picture perfect. I wasn't someone she could just walk away from, but then there was Lucas, with those teary eyes and that soft way he brushed her cheek. How do you say no to that? Suddenly, this heavy, sinking feeling hit her, like a gut punch warning her something big was slipping away. It was that primal panic, like when you dream you're plummeting off a skyscraper. Out of nowhere, she pictured my face at the airport yesterday when I waved her off, part wistful, part locked in, like I was already saying see ya for good. She practically leaped out of bed to snatch her phone. But Lucas, all confused, piped up, "Sophia, what's up?" Her phone was dead as a doornail. Her pulse was pounding as she stared at that blank screen, begging it to charge faster, and the look on her face freaked Lucas out. Finally, it flickered to life, and a call blasted through. Her mom, hollering at her. It took her a second to piece it together. I'd rounded up proof of her thing with Lucas, texts, pics, the works, and turned it into a full-on PowerPoint, attachments and all, then fired it off to our families, friends, even coworkers. The last slide? Classic me, a goofy Photoshop of her and Lucas's wedding, with my handwriting scrawled across it. Here's to a long, happy, kid-free life for these two lovebirds. She hung up, flipped to her messages, and peeled out, driving like a maniac, blowing through red lights, her head spinning with thoughts of me. The winter roads were a mess, slick and unforgiving. She slid around, nearly crashing more than once, but she couldn't think straight. Nothing mattered except getting home to me. I'd always been the forgiving type, big heart and all that. She clung to this tiny hope that even now, she could patch things up. But when she burst through the door, the place was a ghost town. I'd cleared out almost everything and split. She flashed back to when we were prepping for that island trip. She'd teased, "We're not leaving forever, right?" I just grinned, didn't say a peep. That's when it clicked, sharp and brutal. I've been gearing up to bounce for a while. She wasn't having it. We'd spent damn near our whole lives tangled up together. She couldn't imagine breathing without me, and she was dead sure I felt the same. If she could just pour her heart out, make it right, I'd let it slide like always. But when she showed up at my office, my boss had security toss her out without a second glance. Even tracked down one of my work buddies, nothing but cold shoulders there too. Days dragged on as she hunted for me, only to hear I'd snagged a new gig, jetting around nonstop. No clue when I'd be back. It was like I'd planned this slow fade out, and she'd missed every sign. Scrolling through our old texts, she saw it plain as day. Where we used to trade goofy emojis, now it was just her unanswered messages piling up. My social media? Wiped clean of us, just a lone quote sitting there. When do you know it was over? When you saw your future choking you out every day. Meanwhile, I wrapped up my work stuff and figured I'd kick around Chile a bit. 25,000 kilometers from home, it was summer down there, sun painting everything gold. In Santiago, tango dancers spun through the streets, the vibe a mashup of old Europe and fiery Latin soul. A work pal dragged me out to Valparaiso, vineyards rolling out like a green ocean under the sun. I was sipping some Malbec when Sophia's call cut through. Her voice was rough, scratchy. "Noah, where are you at?" I took a slow pull of wine before answering. Other side of the planet. "What's up? Signed those divorce papers yet? If you have, mail him to my office. If not, don't waste my time." She went quiet, and just as I was about to hang up, she blurted, "I'm sorry." Her cries hit my ears, all shaky and raw, like a kid who'd lost their mom in a packed Walmart. "Noah, I'm so sorry. Please forgive me. Tell me what to do, anything, and I'll make it happen." 22 years, Noah, over 20 years together. You're just gonna toss it all away? How can you be so cold? I smirked to myself, and she must have caught the sound, cause her sobbing cut off like a switch. Freaking out, she stammered, "Noah, why are you laughing?" I let out a slow breath, staring at the ground, and said, "You never change, do you? Always so dang sure I'm still in love with you. Convinced that if you flash some tears, I'll cave and feel bad. But here's a thought, Sophia, maybe I don't love you anymore." Next time I rolled back into my hometown, it was Winterfest Eve. The thing about growing up with your sweetheart? You know each other inside out too well, sometimes. My family was all huddled up for our big reunion dinner when the doorbell chimed. I cracked it open, and there she was, Sophia, looking like a mess. Thinner than I'd ever seen her, hair all wild, face sunken from stress, like she'd been chewed up and spit out. She stood there, broken and lost. That PowerPoint I'd whipped up? It torched her and Lucas's reps in our little world. Everyone saw them for what they were. Felt like payback. Sophia had crashed hard, and all those folks who used to cheer her on? They peeled away once the truth came out. I caught some of the chatter over dinner, juicy stuff. Me? I hadn't said a word to her since that last call. Outside, the streets were buzzing with cozy lights from every house, fireworks popping off in the distance like little bursts of celebration. She stared at me, her face a mix of misery and this faint flicker of hope, struggling to get the words out. "Every year, Noah, we've done Winterfest Eve together. I love you. I can't keep going without you." I looked back at her, and out of nowhere, these flashes of the old Sophia hit me, like that time she snuck out one Winterfest, face all rosy, just to slip me a red string bracelet she'd made herself. I figured seeing her again would twist the knife, but no, nothing. These past months, bouncing around the world, soaking in new sights, had patched me up in ways I didn't see coming. Fireworks cracked through the air, ringing out the old year, Winter's long freeze finally thawing into something new. I met her eyes and said, "Sophia, cut it out. It's Winterfest. Seeing you like this turns my stomach." Her face went pale, and without another peep, I swung the door shut. My folks called out, "Who was that?" I just shook my head. Nobody. Then I dove back into the warm chaos of family dinner, tussling over the last chunk of beef in the hot pot, surrounded by laughs and holiday vibes. It was everything I needed, family still in my corner. With my boss's so-called genius steering the ship, my career was taking off like a rocket. I got the hang of this non-stop travel life quick, mailing postcards from every spot I hit. My mom, picking up some goofy internet lingo, started calling me her travel frog. Right now, I was strolling toward a fireworks fest in South Korea, chowing down on some mango bread. She rang me up, all worried as usual. "Son, watch yourself, heard South Korea's got earthquakes." I grinned and eased her mind. "They're not that common, Mom, don't sweat it." But wouldn't you know it, right then, South Korea's weather folks dropped a rare alert for a big one, something about the Gyeongsang fault. Flights home were jammed, and I went off the grid for a bit. My mom was losing it back home, praying up a storm and even burning incense at midnight, hoping I'd make it through safe. Meanwhile, Sophia caught wind of the South Korea quake and snagged a flight out there. Lucas was still hanging around her then. A total wreck, job gone, blacklisted, the works. They were trapped in this nasty, tangled mess, neither one able to cut loose. He pleaded with her, "Don't be dumb, Sophia. You think flying out there's gonna make Noah forgive you? Wake up, he's done." But she wasn't hearing it. In the heat of their argument, she snatched a kettle and swung it his way. He flinched and shouted, "He doesn't love you, get that through your skull. I'm the only one who does." She didn't say a word, just turned and left him there bleeding. I finally made it back home, even with my flight delayed all to heck. Right before we took off, my busted phone buzzed with a call from some random number, but the flight crew told me to shut it down. I did, and it slipped my mind completely. Once I landed, I calmed my family down and jumped back into work like nothing happened. That is, until Lucas showed up outside my office building. Guy was a shadow of himself, eyes red, clothes a mess, looking like he'd been through the ringer. "Where's Sophia? Give her back to me," he barked. I squinted at him through the glass door, wondering how he'd fallen this far. It hit me later. Sophia had gotten to South Korea before that quake. That weird call from earlier? Probably her. But I kept my cool, waved security over, and told him, "I don't give a rip. She's your problem now, not mine." Then the bad news rolled in through her folks, who passed it along to my family. She tracked me to the inn I'd been crashing at, but when she tried calling, all she got was a busy signal, thought I was brushing her off on purpose. So she came looking for me, and that's when the whole place came down. My mom broke it to me, her voice thick with grief. Sophia didn't make it out. The collapse crushed her legs smashed to bits. Docs weren't even sure she'd ever walk again. Mom hesitated, then asked, "Son, you gonna go see her?" I shook my head. "Nope. Me and Sophia? We're nothing to each other now." After I hung up, I gazed out the window of yet another new country I'd landed in.